What's happening, everybody? In this video, I want to show you how you can build a contact form in Bootstrap 5. We'll also take it up a notch where we can add a phone number as a placeholder value and add either optional or required information. So if I click the submit button, it says, hey, you got to fill this field out for this to work. Oh, and the best part about this is it's responsive. And with that, let's get started. All right. Hey, I'm Haydn Adams with the Designer Who Codes, and I'm all about helping you build a better website. There's nothing better than a website than having the ability to contact someone through a contact form. Now, this project right here is based upon the basic template of Bootstrap 5. Only thing I've done differently is I've added hello world in the container, added the margin top to a 5 with the Bootstrap spacing. So all I have are the breakpoints, and at a certain size, the text does increase and decrease in size. After that, we're going to start building the contact form. Since we already have the container in place, I'm sorry, but hello world, we're just going to change you to contact me. There we go. Looks so much better. After the contact me in H1, what I want to do is I want to set up a form. So I'm going to say form. Open and close that form. And within the form, I'm going to add a row. That's going to allow us to make us the responsive design that helps with the container. The form is going to have class, row, and then G3 for a gutter to give it some space inside of our design. After we establish the form, what I want to do next is I want to add the columns. So I'm going to say div class. And our first column, we're going to create 50% column. I want to create on the left-hand side a first name, and the right-hand side, I'm going to say last name. So since Bootstrap works on a 12-column system, if I say 6, that equals 50%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say div class, and in here, I'm going to say call, and then it's going to break on the medium or smaller. I'm going to say call medium -6. And in this column, I'm going to first write the word test. And since we have it twice, I want to see it at 50% and 50%. I'm going to add, or in this case, rather copy, just to make sure that it is working successfully. So I have the test on the left and test on the right. Now that I have my 2-column design, I can start adding the first name and the last name to this design. I'm going to remove the word test, and I'm going to say label for, I'm going to say first name. This class is going to be a form label. And after that, I'm going to say first name. You're going to see the word first name, so ignore the difference of spelling. We're going to use this on the second part. After the label, I have to add an input. So input type is going to be text, as it's just the first name. Class is going to equal form control. And then I'm going to add an ID, which is going to be equal to the first name. That way I can tie the label to the input. So the ID is going to be first name. And I also want to make this required. So I'm going to say not read only. Required, didn't catch that one successfully, and I'll close it up. Now when I save this and refresh the page, what I get is first name and the text first name. So what I want to do next is I want to add the last name. Down below, after the first one, I can just simply duplicate and copy and paste the first name to last name. Last name, last name, and last name. And without saving that form or refreshing, all of a sudden I have a 2-column contact. And because the power is contained, no pun intended, with the container, when it comes to responsive design, when I make this smaller, when it goes to the smaller, or in this case, smaller, or the medium, notice how it drops down. I have an instant responsive contact form out of the gate with both the container, the columns, and using the medium size. That's Pretty darn awesome. Bootstrap, you rock. The next thing I want to do is I want to add both an email and a phone number. Now I do not want the phone number to be required as just optional. So I'm going to not add the required word, but I do need the email address if I were to email someone back with a contact form. So after this area and the column medium 6, I'm going to stick with the medium size so everything breaks at the same time. What I'm going to do is I'll say div class equals call MD, but I'm going to go 8 because if I think about it, I want the email address to be a little bit longer than the phone number. So call MD8, in this case 8 out of 12 is 3/4 versus 1/4. So here I'm going to do in this call 8 is going to be label. This label is going to be for email info. And then I'll say class equals form dash label. And after that, I'll close it up and say email. Now I have to have some sort of input type in here. So the input is going to be type email. And then after that, we're going to say class equals form control. And then the ID is going to match up to the top one. So ID equals email info. Now I do want this to be required. So we'll add it right down here, save. And when I refresh the page, I get a longer email. Now I do want the phone number still over here, but a little shorter. So I can simply add, if I have 8, well, 12 minus 8 is 4. So then I'm going to add a div class equals call MD4 for the phone number. The phone number we're going to add as a label. And we're going to say for phone number. And here I'll say class equals form label. And I'll say phone number. Now I do not want the phone number to be required. So what I'm going to do is down below, I will say input. And I like to say the type is still going to be text. You can do a numeric value in here, but because I'm asking for both the plus international number and parentheses, I will add the type as being text, just to keep it really simple. The class I'm going to do is going to be form control. And the ID will correspond to the word for. So ID equals phone number. And I'm not going to add the required part. So if I save this, what I get is the phone number. Now, in this case, I do want someone to enter in their international number. So I do ask for the plus some kind of number. In the US, we're +1 or +001. So I'm going to add a placeholder. So the placeholder will then say +1. I use the San Francisco area code and 8675309. Almost messed up that number. And now when I save it and refresh, the phone number is in there. So it shows the user basically, well, we prefer the +1 and the 415 or the area code or the postal code and the number as well. Now keep in mind that this is not going to be required, so it can just sit there. It's just a random placeholder because I want to show the person what I'm asking them to type in. Obviously for email address, it's self-explanatory and first name and last name, but phone number isn't quite that. The next section I want to put in is my comments because I want to add a big comments box to this design. So down below, the comments is going to be full width or the full of the container. So that equals 12 out of 12. What I'm going to do is I'll say div class, we'll keep with the medium size, call MD 12 for full width. Now what we're going to put here is a text area. So I'll say label for, and this is going to be for comments. Again, I'm going to say class equals form label. And we'll say comments, questions. I don't know. After that, what I'm going to add, if I bring this back up towards the top of the screen, is we're going to say text area. Now, the text area actually opens and closes. There's two parts to this. So the text area class equals form control. The ID is going to be comments. And we also have to say how many rows we want this text area to be. I usually add 3 or 4. So in this case, I'll say rows equals 3. And when I close it, it's also going to then close on itself over here on the right-hand side. Be sure not to drop this down. What this actually causes is actually an issue when it comes to the form, and I'll show you this. If I refresh the page, there's actually a whole bunch of extra negative space because the text area assumed you wanted all of this empty area to be part of the actual information. So even though this looks like it is correct, so notice now if I save this, that there's all this by default extra space. That's because each space in this rare instance is counted as a space in the form. So what you'll want to do with the text area is make sure that there is no space between the open text area and the closed text area. If I save this, now what I get is no extra space up here in the top with the comments and questions. The last part, which is probably the most important, is I have to create a submit button. I actually have to submit this form somehow. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a button. Since we're using our columns and our rows, I'm going to use simply the 12 again to fit in a long row area. So what I'm going to do is outside this div, I'm going to say div class equals call MD12. And in here, I'm going to add a button. So I'll say button type is going to be a submit button to submit the information. And after that, I'm going to say class equals BTN. This is Bootstrap's button, and BTN primary. This will add the blue color, which is the default primary color, which is in Bootstrap. I'll then say submit. When I save this, now I get this awesome looking blue submit button with the cool rollover to boot. So when I click submit, of course it says, please fill out this field. So I'll fill it out. I'm Haydn, and I haven't finished it yet because it needs this field, since I did say required. And it needs this field, so I'll say Bob at bob.com just to fill it out. I don't have any form attached to this, so it will not actually send, so don't worry. If you are Bob at bob.com, this will not send to you. And it's done. Because I didn't set, oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to set the comments and questions to be required. So it actually did go through. So what I want to do is I want someone to write some information, because if someone's going to contact me, I would hope they would write something right there. Let's try that one more time. Let's add the required to the text area. So once again, I'm going to first refresh the page. That's me. That's still me. There's Bob. And if I try to submit, please fill out this field. So while we know that this is going to be required, we can then double check to make sure everything moves from large, medium, and then when it hits the small size below medium, it goes right to vertical. How beautiful is that? The power under the hood belongs to that container. Without the word container, this would not be responsive. So thereby it moves no matter what size I have my browser window set to. If you want more help working with the grid and the container, I have some videos right here that talk about just that. As always, I'm Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes, and I'm all about helping you build a better website. Have a fantastic day.